Hello, this is the Global News Podcast on the BBC World Service. I'm Valerie Sanderson, and on Monday, the 24th of August, these are our main stories. The UK is handing over classified technology to Ukraine that would help Kyiv strike deeper into Russia. Pakistan's army chief is back in Iran, trying to restart peace talks between Tehran and Washington. And the BBC speaks to Afghans living under the hardline rule of the Taliban. Ukraine is hosting key European allies, known as the Coalition of the Willing, on the 35th anniversary of the nation's independence, to press for more political support and, crucially, the critical weapon systems it needs to combat Russia. The meeting is also expected to look at how to supply Ukraine with Patriot missiles that would intercept some of the aerial attacks from Russia. It's an event being chaired by the leaders of France and Germany, who participate remotely, and by the British Prime Minister Andy Burnham, who's in Kyiv.
Thank you for the incredible stand you have taken, because we are all stronger for it. Europe is stronger. NATO is stronger too. As President Zelensky has said, Ukraine is not a poor relative, but a strong ally. I'd go further still. Ukraine has been Europe's protector, not a drain on our security, but the front line of keeping Europe safe.
But this is not just a day for symbolic acts of support, as our correspondent in Kyiv, Dan Johnson, explains.
There's a large security operation in Kyiv today for the Independence Day celebrations. They're marking 35 years of Ukraine's independence from the Soviet Union. A lot of international politicians and leaders here, including British Prime Minister Andy Burnham on his first overseas visit. He's bringing a message of renewed British support. He said that friendship would be there for Ukraine as long as it takes, and that Russia's threats against the UK would not weaken the resolve that Britain would not waver in supplying Ukraine with what it needs. And that's not just the Storm Shadow or Scalp missiles that have already been supplied, but it is now the technology, the blueprints for those missiles so that Ukraine can produce them itself. That's an important step, but it also signals to other international countries that Ukraine can be trusted with that technology. And President Zelensky will be hoping that Donald Trump hears that message and therefore agrees that Ukraine can produce its own Patriot missile interceptors, which are desperately needed to protect Ukraine's skies. There are political meetings today as well as the celebrations. Andy Burnham is going to receive an award on behalf of the British people for the support the UK has given Ukraine in the 4.5 years of this war.
So what impact would the promised new defensive and offensive weapons have on Kyiv's military abilities? Here's the BBC's Joe Inwood.
What we're seeing here is the ability for Ukraine to produce these missiles. Now that's going to take time to get going. What it could do is make a difference in the long term. So they now have the capability, or they will do, to set up their own production facilities, their own factories in Ukraine, and they can start producing these Storm Shadow, these Scalp missiles. They are just one of a number of options that the Ukrainians have in terms of long-range, medium-range attack, and they are significant as they have the capability to strike targets that, for example, drones can't, not just because they can fly undetected, but also they are capable of defeating hardened targets, so bunkers or ammo stores. So in that sense, this is a really important bit of technology, but it's one that's going to take a bit of time to get going.
Pakistani mediators are in Iran trying to restart the peace process between Tehran and Washington. It comes as the US is preparing to expand its economic sanctions, which could see nations that trade with Iran hit with financial penalties. The US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says they will be the toughest in history. In anticipation, the country's currency, the rial, has hit a record low. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says the nation stands firm in the face of aggression.
The perception from the US was that Iran would become Venezuela. Not only has this not happened, but Iran has become a power that's astonished the world with its display of resistance, solidarity and integrity. We are in an all-out military, economic and security war in the face of the most devastating set of sanctions. But we're standing firm to secure the future of our people.
I asked Taraneh Fathalian from BBC Persian what appetite there is in Tehran for a diplomatic solution to the conflict.
Officials are divided between whether they should make a deal or carry the war. A few days ago, President Pezeshkian said that we have to get out while we're on top. We have to end the war while we're on top. And then the Iranian Majlis Speaker, Ghalibaf, said in Baghdad that if people are hungry, we can't continue, we can't last. And after there was massive backlash by Iranian hardliner officials that they're saying that they are kind of showing weakness, the Majlis released a long video of the remarks made by the Iran Majlis Speaker Ghalibaf, saying that it's important that we stand firm where we are and security is just as important and as financial stability. So they're kind of showing a tough facade, but underneath that, they are aware that the economy is crippling.
What is life like there for people in Iran? Because I know you've been talking to them.
It wasn't long ago that I saw a video online of this young woman who had bought chicken bones from a butcher's, basically the waste of chicken that wasn't being sold. She had bought that from the butchers and was boiling that so she could get some nutrients out of it because chicken has got so expensive. People are talking about eggs because meat and red meat has been off limits for a lot of Iranian families now. And so they were resorting to eggs for nutrients and protein, and even that is off limits. People are talking about devastating poverty, and these are people who were middle class not long ago, and it's very tough. Like I see videos of sellers, of shopkeepers saying that they've been keeping their shop open for days and they haven't seen one customer. So whatever the officials stand, people are really, really feeling the effects of the war.
The BBC World Service has gained rare access inside Afghanistan under the Taliban. 5 years after the extreme Islamist movement returned to power, the BBC has spent time with senior figures there, former insurgents turned politicians, to see how they are governing a country in crisis. We've also spoken to Afghans themselves, living once again under the same hardline rule the group first imposed decades ago. The BBC's Kabun Kamush reports.
In northern Afghanistan, Taliban Governor Abdullah Sarhadi starts his day. He's a former Guantanamo Bay inmate, now responsible for enforcing strict Sharia across his region. While he doesn't want everything recorded, this is rare access. One by one, locals bring their problems. The governor quickly makes his decrees. But one case dominates proceedings. An 18-year-old woman seeking a divorce from her husband. She accuses him of beatings and abuse. To protect her identity, we have had someone else voice her words.
I'm ready to be executed, but not live with him.
In Sharia or Islamic religious law, if a woman initiates divorce, it often requires the husband's consent too, and the wife may have to repay the dowry given by her husband when they married. A financial settlement is often agreed, but this woman's husband says he wants 4 times the amount.
You'll have to compromise a lot, or you'll lose your dignity and honor.
Mr. Governor, my honor and dignity have already been ruined by him.
While the woman is sent away, the matter is discussed by the men.
Women are mindless. They are deficient in intellect. They don't know a thing. What would you do with a divorced daughter? You can't kill her. You need to marry her with someone else. Would you marry such a girl with your son?
Her family refuses to pay the $30,000 her husband wants, and the governor says she should not seek divorce. Just a warning to her husband of punishment if there is further abuse. The Taliban's policies today are similar to the hardline interpretation of Islamic religious law they imposed in the 1990s. In the week the Taliban came to power, this woman took to the streets to protest. She had a successful career and an active life, but now we meet in secret. We can't reveal her identity to protect her safety. I ask her why the Taliban want to restrict women.
I think the Taliban are scared. They are scared of educated women. They know educated women won't give birth to ignorant beings such as the Taliban. They restrict women so they won't be able to raise wise men, because that would be the end of the Taliban.
Upon returning to power, the Taliban said they had changed. 5 years on, it's a country run by men for men. And you promised that you will respect human rights, you will allow women to participate in all aspects of life, work and study. Why did you fail to keep your promise?
I mentioned Sharia as a condition. We are committed to women's rights, freedom of speech, and other things within Sharia. We must scale everything up according to Sharia.
As an insurgency, the Taliban proved it could survive. The question now is whether it can govern a country in crisis, and for how long.
Still to come in this podcast, protecting one of the world's most agile birds.
This bird is so rare and so charismatic that if bird spotters knew where we were, they would come not in their hundreds, but in their thousands. And this is a bird that's already in real trouble.
Piracy was a major threat to international shipping off Somalia between 2008 and 2018. Now, the Western Indian Ocean is seeing a spike in piracy incidents again after years of relative containment. 6 ships are being held by hijackers, and a drone strike on a vessel, which was believed to be part of a piracy supply chain, killed 9 people on Sunday. Our Africa correspondent Barbara Pletusher told me more.
A Puntland security official, this is a semi-autonomous region in Somalia, told us that the men had been preparing to board the skiff to go out to sea. He said they were all armed, so very likely they were pirates, or at least part of a pirate network. And this is the second such attack in a week, although no one has claimed responsibility for them, but they seem to be linked to one of the vessels that was hijacked last week, the Lutuf. It is flying a Cameroon flag, but there are reports, unconfirmed reports, that it has links to Turkey. So possibly these boats were hit because they were aimed at supplying that ship. The Puntland security official said he believed it was a Turkish drone. Again, we have no confirmation of that. So the Lutuf is one of, I think, now 5 ships that are being held by the pirates. And they have been hijacked over the course of several months. And we know for some of them, the pirates are asking for quite steep ransoms.
What's behind this surge in piracy, do you think, in this part of the world?
Well, there are a number of things. One of them is the general security environment. So you have a maritime blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. You have conflict and the threat of conflict in the Red Sea. And so that, I think, has pushed more and more international vessels closer to the Somali coast in terms of the routes that they are taking. Plus, it's believed that that has distracted some of the international forces who would normally be policing the pirates and piracy to be dealing with these other issues. So that has created an environment of opportunity, shall we say. Analysts are suspicious about a number of ships that have been hijacked near Yemen's coast. They think this might show some collaboration between the Somali pirates and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, that they are perhaps collaborating to take advantage of the environment to make maximum profit. Again, that hasn't been confirmed. But there is also a local element to this. You have foreign trawlers fishing in the shores off of Somalia, and that has really been a blow to the fishing industry and to incomes of fishermen. So it means that they're more ready to take up piracy for income.
The online fast fashion retailer Shein will make its long-awaited market debut on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange at the beginning of September. Some analysts say it could be one of the biggest listings of company shares anywhere in the world this year. The company, known for selling dresses for about $10 and jeans for about $15, was founded in China, but it now has its headquarters in Singapore. Our reporter Ajuma Ndukwe has been following the story.
what's particularly interesting about this listing is that the company is valued at around 27 billion US dollars, which is absolutely huge. I mean, it makes it, much more valuable than Zara, which is a household name, which is a Spanish company. However, back in 2022, it was valued at nearly 100 billion US dollars. So that's a significant fall in value. And that's come about for a number of reasons. When Shein released their company results, we saw that sales had slowed down. And part of that is because the US removed an import duty exemption on small packages, which made it much more expensive to order goods from the brand. And it removed the fashion brand's competitive advantage. As a result of this, Shein has said that it has to review its prices across the US market to try and offset those costs. Another problem with their operating costs is that due to the war in Iran, like many companies around the world, it has pushed up the cost of doing business, and that's had an impact on their operating costs. Also, there's Temu, which you may have heard of. It's another Chinese company which offers fast fashion. They've become a major competitor for Shein, and they've taken some of Shein's market share. And of course, all of this comes at a time of huge uncertainty because we've been seeing a tit-for-tat tariff war play out between the US and China, which is currently paused. But as we all know, that can restart at any time.
One of the world's most agile birds, the Montagu's harrier, is becoming a less common sight in northern Europe in the summer when it arrives to breed. It's a long-distant migrant which then travels to Africa for the winter. The bird of prey's nests are on the ground, most often in agricultural farmland. Now, earlier harvests brought forward by climate change mean the nests and the chicks are often at risk of being destroyed by farm machinery. In the UK, Montagu's harriers are extremely rare, but the largest conservation charity here in Britain, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, has found 2 nests with chicks and has given exclusive access to the BBC's climate editor, Justin Rolat.
Is this the ultimate takeaway delivery? Let's watch that again in slow-mo. The grey male swoops in and releases his prey. The female twists beneath him to snatch it from the air. It is a stunning aerobatic display, but here in Britain, Montagu's harriers are desperately rare.
Now this is a top secret location. I've been told I can say I'm in England, but I can't tell you which county we're in. This bird is so rare and so charismatic that if bird spotters knew where we were, they would come not in their hundreds, but in their thousands, the RSPB says. And this is a bird that's already in real trouble. For 5 years, there were no breeding pairs in the UK at all.
This year, there are 2, both served by the same very busy male. He's supporting 2 females and 6 chicks, which can demand up to 10 of those spectacular food drops a day.
The male here is an incredibly special bird. So this was ringed as a chick in Wiltshire in 2016. I was present when that bird was ringed. And he's come back this year. He spent 10 days displaying like crazy in the sky at several thousand feet and amazingly attracted 2 female Montagu's harriers.
And there is another threat. Montagu's harriers nest on the ground, hidden amongst the crops. And climate change is bringing harvests forward.
This is a species right on the brink, and climate change is not helping that. And the reason it's not helping it is the harvest here, for example, this year was like a month earlier than in previous years. So it almost puts any Montagu's harrier nest at the perils of inadvertently being destroyed by farm machinery.
Here, the RSPB and the farmers have fenced them off and left crops standing until the young can fly. But surviving the harvest is just the beginning. Soon, these chicks will leave Britain.
God, they're beautiful birds, aren't they?
Absolutely the best, yeah.
2 chicks, 1 from each nest, are being fitted with satellite tags. Each weighs just 5 grams.
You'll tell us where she goes, how she disperses, how long she lives, where she winters, where she'll return to breed.
We know the adults migrate thousands of miles to West Africa, but scientists know far less about what happens to young birds on their first journey.
It allows us for the first time ever to work out where they're going, what migration route, and how long they'll spend there, and will they come back to the UK in the first year or the second year.
Within weeks, these juvenile birds will be heading south, and now, for the first time, the RSPB will be able to follow 2 of them into the unknown.
And that's it from this edition of the Global News Podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, our contact details are below. I'm Valerie Sanderson from this edition of the Global News Podcast here on YouTube. That's it. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and bye for now.